I stumbled upon the eerie scene just as the sun began to dip behind the skeletal remains of Pripyat's decaying buildings. The air hung heavy with the unmistakable scent of decay, a sinister reminder of the nuclear catastrophe that unfolded decades ago. The cracked pavement crunched beneath my worn-out sneakers as I cautiously advanced, my senses alert to the strange silence that enveloped the desolate landscape. In the distance, an unnatural silhouette emerged against the darkening sky. At first, it seemed like a mere speck, but as I drew closer, the monstrous form became apparent. A colossal bird, mutated and grotesque, perched atop a crumbling structure like a harbinger of doom. Its feathers were an unsettling shade of sickly gray, a macabre reflection of the desolation that surrounded Chernobyl. Fear clutched at my chest as the creature fixed its ominous gaze upon me. Its eyes, cold and unblinking, held an ancient malevolence that sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't tear my gaze away, as if I were locked in a silent duel with this grotesque omen. As I stood there, paralyzed by the haunting presence of the mutant bird, memories of the legends whispered through the ghostly winds of Pripyat. Locals spoke of the creature as an omen, a living manifestation of impending disaster. Those who encountered it, they said, were doomed to face misfortune or death. I dismissed the tales as mere folklore, the product of a community haunted by the specter of Chernobyl. Yet, the unsettling reality of the mutated bird perched before me left no room for skepticism. It was as if the very essence of the tragedy that unfolded here had taken form in this monstrous creature. A primal instinct was warning me to turn and flee from the looming catastrophe that lurked in the shadows. The suspense tightened its grip on my nerves as I tentatively took a step backward. The mutated bird, however, remained unmoving, its eyes boring into my soul with a predatory intensity. I couldn't escape the feeling that it knew something crucial about the fate that awaited me. My mind raced with possibilities, each more dire than the last. Was it a guardian of the forsaken city? A spectral sentry warning intruders of the impending doom? Or perhaps it was a twisted manifestation of pure evil. I couldn't shake the sense of impending doom that hung in the air like a thick fog. The suspense reached a fever pitch as I considered my options. Running away seemed futile, as if the very ground beneath me conspired with the malevolent bird to seal my fate. In the eerie silence, the mutant creature spread its deformed wings, casting a long, ominous shadow across the desolate landscape. The air itself seemed to tremble with an unspoken prophecy, as if the very atoms that lingered in the radioactive air foretold the misfortune that awaited me. As I stood there, paralyzed by fear, the first whispers of a distant howl echoed through the silence. It was an otherworldly sound, mournful and haunting, a symphony of despair that seemed to rise from the very bowels of Chernobyl. The suspense deepened. A suffocating weight pressed down on my chest as the echoes of the howl reverberated through the abandoned structures. The mutated bird let out a guttural cry, a dissonant melody that harmonized with the distant wails. It took flight, its deformed wings beating against the poisoned air. I watched in horror as it circled above, a grotesque specter against the crimson hues of the setting sun. The suspense tightened its grip, and a sinking realization dawned upon me. The legend was true, and I stood at the precipice of an impending disaster. The mutated bird, a living harbinger, had marked me as a witness to the unfolding tragedy that lurked in the shadows of Chernobyl. With a final haunting cry, the creature vanished into the twilight, leaving me alone with the impending darkness that loomed over Pripyat. I felt a chill in my bones, a premonition of the misfortune that awaited me in the aftermath of encountering the legendary bird. As I retraced my steps through the desolate streets, the suspense lingered. The legends whispered through the ghostly winds had proven true, and I couldn't escape the feeling that I had become entwined with the tragic legacy of Chernobyl. The mutated bird, a silent witness to the horrors of the past, had chosen me to bear witness to the impending doom that awaited those who dared to tread on the haunted grounds of Pripyat. The sun was sinking behind the skeletal remains of what used to be a thriving town. Rusty swings swayed in the breeze, their chains creaking like the bones of an ancient beast. Broken windows stared blankly from dilapidated houses, and weeds clawed their way through cracked asphalt. Nature had claimed its dominion, and the abandoned landscape echoed with the eerie silence of a place forgotten by time. I found myself standing at the edge of this desolation, drawn to the ghost town like a moth to a flickering bulb. My companions, a group of thrill-seekers on a tourist hike, were ahead of me, their voices fading as they ventured deeper into the exclusion zone. A sign warned of the dangers, but curiosity whispered louder than caution. Veering off the beaten path, I plunged into the heart of the forsaken town. Nature's reclamation was a spectacle in itself, vines weaving through broken windows. It was as if the world had decided to move on, leaving behind only remnants of human existence. As I wandered through the ruins, the air grew thick with an uncanny stillness. No birds chirped, and the wind whispered through the empty streets. A feeling of being watched crept over me, like unseen eyes tracking my every move. I quickened my pace, trying to shake off the irrational unease. Deeper into the exclusion zone, the signs of wildlife became more apparent. Footprints in the dust told tales of creatures that had made this place their own. And then, I heard it. A distant howl. The howl echoed through the deserted alleys, haunting in its loneliness. I froze, realizing that this had become a haven for more than just memories. My senses heightened as I continued my solitary exploration. A flicker of movement caught my eye, a flash of fur between crumbling walls. I strained my eyes to get a better look, but the creature had vanished into the shadows. My heart pounded, and I questioned the wisdom of my decision to wander off alone. The sun dipped lower, casting elongated shadows that seemed to dance with unseen entities. I stumbled upon an old factory, its entrance beckoning me like a dark portal. A guttural growl echoed from within, and I hesitated. It was as if the very walls were warning me of the dangers that lurked in the depths of the building. Despite my better judgment, curiosity overcame caution once again, and I stepped inside. The air was heavy with the scent of decay, and the only sound was my own hesitant footsteps echoing through the cavernous space. Broken machinery lay dormant, covered in a layer of dust that told tales of decades of neglect. Suddenly, the silence shattered. A chorus of howls erupted, each more haunting than the last. Panic seized me as I realized that I was not alone. Eyes gleamed in the darkness, and I glimpsed the shapes of wolves, larger, more formidable than normal. My heart raced as the pack emerged from the shadows, their eyes fixated on me. These were not the wolves of bedtime stories. They were mutated, distorted by the lingering effects of the disaster that had turned this place into a forbidden zone. Their coats were mottled with unnatural patterns, and their eyes glowed with an otherworldly intensity. I stumbled backward, my gaze darting around for an escape route. The wolves advanced, moving with a predatory grace. This had become their territory, and I was an intruder in their domain. With every step, the suspense escalated. The wolves circled me, their growls resonating like an ominous symphony. I fumbled for my phone, hoping that the feeble glow of its screen might ward them off. The eerie light illuminated their mutated forms, casting grotesque shadows on the walls. I retreated further into the factory, my mind racing for a plan. The wolves closed in, their eyes locked onto mine. Fear gripped me, but there was no turning back. In the absence of humans, nature had taken a dark turn here, and I was an unwitting trespasser in this nightmarish realm. As the pack tightened its circle, I felt a surge of adrenaline. With a burst of speed, I made a dash for the exit, the wolves hot on my heels. The race against the unknown unfolded in the dim light, my breaths coming in ragged gasps. I could hear the thud of their paws, the echoes of my own heart pounding in my ears. Just as I reached the safety of the fading daylight, the wolves pulled back, retreating into the shadows from whence they came. The exclusion zone reclaimed its silence as if nothing had happened. I stumbled back to the main path, rejoining my oblivious companions. I told them about the mutated wolves, the creatures that had added an unexpected element of danger to the abandoned landscape. The fear still clung to me, a lingering reminder of the secrets hidden within. As we exited the ghost town, I cast a glance over my shoulder, half expecting to see the distorted figures lurking in the shadows. The tale of the mutated wolves would remain etched in my memory, a chilling encounter in a place where the absence of humans had allowed nature to take a sinister turn. The exclusion zone held its secrets, and I had unwittingly become a part of its haunting narrative. My heart pounded in my chest as I stumbled upon an old, decrepit building hidden deep within the woods. The moon cast eerie shadows on its dilapidated walls, and the silence was suffocating. I could hear my own footsteps echoing in the stillness, every crunch of leaves beneath my shoes amplifying the tension in the air. The structure before me seemed abandoned, yet there was an unsettling aura that clung to it. The windows were shattered, their shards glinting in the moonlight, and the door hung on its hinges as if it were barely holding on. I hesitated, my senses screaming at me to turn back, but an inexplicable curiosity pushed me forward. As I entered the dimly lit interior, the air grew heavier, as though the weight of decades of forgotten secrets bore down on my shoulders. Dust danced in the feeble beams of moonlight that filtered through the cracks in the roof, creating an otherworldly display that heightened the sense of foreboding. The silence was broken only by the creaking floorboards beneath my feet. It was as though the very soul of the building moaned in protest against my intrusion. The air smelled musty, like the scent of decay lingering in the abandoned remnants of the past. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone. My steps echoed through the corridor as I cautiously explored the building's interior. The walls seemed to whisper long-forgotten tales, and the air grew colder with each passing moment. A distant sound, like a soft rustling, caught my attention. My senses heightened as I strained to identify its source. I turned a corner and froze. There, standing in the dim light, was a figure, tall and shadowy. It seemed to materialize from the darkness itself, its features obscured by the lack of light. Panic gripped me as I fumbled for my phone, the feeble glow of its screen revealing nothing but the desolate surroundings. I took a step back, my heart racing as the figure began to move towards me. Its footsteps were silent, almost ghostly. The air crackled with an unsettling energy as if the very atmosphere was charged with an unseen force. I stumbled backward, my eyes fixed on the advancing silhouette. The figure remained elusive, avoiding the moonlight as if it were an entity of the shadows. The only sound was the rhythmic thud of my own heartbeat, reverberating through the eerie stillness. As the distance between us closed, a sense of dread enveloped me. I could feel the weight of the unknown pressing down on me, and a cold sweat broke out on my forehead. Panic set in as I desperately sought an escape route, my mind racing to comprehend the enigma before me. I turned a corner, hoping to lose the shadowy figure, but it persisted in its pursuit. The building itself seemed to conspire against me, its maze-like corridors leading me further into the depths of an unsettling abyss. Fear gnawed at my every thought, and I questioned the sanity of my decision to venture into this forsaken place. The air grew thick with tension as the figure closed in. I could feel its presence, an intangible force that seemed to penetrate the very fabric of reality. I stumbled into a room, my breath catching in my throat as I turned to confront the enigmatic pursuer. There in the dim light, the figure finally revealed itself. It wore a tattered hooded cloak that concealed its face, and its eyes gleamed with an otherworldly luminescence. I was terrified as I stared into the abyss of those haunting eyes, unable to look away. Without uttering a word, the figure extended a hand towards me, its fingers elongated and skeletal. A sense of inevitability washed over me as I realized the futility of escape. The room seemed to warp and twist, reality itself bending to the will of this mysterious entity. As the figure's hand brushed against mine, a surge of indescribable sensations overwhelmed me. It was as though I had glimpsed into the very essence of existence, a cosmic tapestry woven with threads of time and space. My mind struggled to comprehend the incomprehensible, and a sense of profound understanding washed over me. And then, as quickly as it had appeared, the figure dissipated into the shadows, leaving me alone in the haunting silence. I stood there, trembling, my mind grappling with the enigma of what had just transpired. The building seemed to exhale a sigh of relief, its secrets locked away once more in the forgotten corners of time. I stumbled out of the decaying structure, the moonlight now a welcome guide through the twisted maze I had traversed. The night air felt crisp, cleansing, as if I had emerged from a dream into the reassuring embrace of reality. The encounter with the Shubin had left an indelible mark on my psyche, a haunting reminder that some mysteries are better left untouched. As I made my way through the woods, the distant echoes of the building's whispers lingered in my ears. The enigmatic figure had vanished, but its presence continued to haunt the recesses of my thoughts. The Shubin, an elusive specter of the unknown, had granted me a glimpse into the unfathomable depths of existence, leaving me forever changed by the encounter with the shadows that dwell beyond the veil of our understanding.